Hey, what's up guys? UrAvgWarGamer is back with another video of warships, and today's topic is about which steel ship that you buy first. The simple question but very difficult answer. Yes, we do have tons of steel ships, and since we are currently farming the steel from the Grand Voyage event, the question becomes even more important for every player out there. Like, which is the ship should I pick right now? Is it the Stalingrad? Is it the Sevilla, which is a really good light cruiser? Is it the William de Iris that just recently got released? Or maybe the hybrid, like the Lertique? Or maybe the Barbiano, that is just insane with the SAP DPM in the game? Well, to answer that, I will split this question into classes. In this scenario, what I will do, that I will try to take on cruisers, battleships, destroyers, submarines, and carriers all together but separately, so that we should really know that out of all cruisers, or I would say out of all battleships, which one is the best according to the meta. So we will try to answer that. And since I do have tons of experience in this game, playing over 25,000 battles in the randoms and as well as in the ranked, you can go and check out the stats. Those are pretty okay. Not gonna say the best, but it's not the worst either. So we will talk about the cruisers first in the steel realm, and then we will focus on the other classes as well. So if you do find this video useful, be sure to hit a like and subscribe. Alright, so let's talk about cruisers. We have Stalingrad, we do have Sevilla, and I would say those are particularly the very top picks that you can have for steel ship. For cruiser, obviously. So I believe, and what I would say here, if you want to pick one cruiser, I would say Stalingrad. But there are a couple of things that you need to know. If you, for example, have the Petropavlovsk, which I will go and take this quickly. So the thing is, if you want to buy Stalingrad, well, you do need to know that it almost plays kinda like Moscow, which by the way is available for coal. So coal is very easy to access, like it's very easy to farm over steel. So it's kind of like Moscow with the very amazing guns and worse armor a bit overall. And when we talk and compare with Petropavlovsk, well, the Stalingrad is kind of similar. As you can see, we do have the Petro, and especially if you do have the legendary mod, the answer to pick Stalingrad gets a lot difficult, because Petropavlovsk with this mod or this upgrade gets main battery shell dispersion minus 10% and also the main battery AP shell damage. So you're going to get the best of the dispersion and damage on the Petro, and Petro guns are amazing. It's just slightly worse in alpha, but then you do have better reload time, and it still have really decent DPM, and it has without a doubt a better armor profile than Stalin. Slightly worse maybe, because when we talk about Nakhimov that have 40mm pen in rockets, or some cruisers that are 240mm caliber guns, they can pen the deck. Sometimes that happens, but most of the time this deck armor and side armor is very tanky compared to Stalin. So if you do have the leg mod, the question of getting Stalingrad gets a bit difficult, because you do have the radar on Petro, and you also do have the hydro, which you don't find on Stalin, right? So that is why if you have the Petro and you have the Nikolai Kuznetsov with leg mod, the pick to the Stalin, or I would say the pick of Stalin for a cruiser as your first steel ship, if you don't have one, I don't think so. It's kind of worth it. And what's actually going to be worth over Stalingrad is going to be the Sevilla. If we take a look at the Sevilla, then if you have the Petro with leg mod, becomes more sensible pick. Now Sevilla is a very amazing light cruiser. It has, for some reason, pretty insane armor profile. As you can see, you do have 30mm side armor, and somehow the tech armor is also 30mm, and you do have the Citadel, which is very weak, but it sometimes work in your favor if you are at close ranges, because battleships tend to do overpens because of this very thin plating, and that's what usually happens. But Sevilla does have really good armor, and you are actually not overmatchable, unlike Minotaur, unlike the Colbert. For some reason, Wargaming has given, or I would say not have given, that 16mm armor plating that you usually find on light cruisers. So it's relatively, weirdly enough, not that sort of a light cruiser. And on top of that, with this very decent that cannot be overmatched most of the time by 406mm guns. You do have on top of that having short burst smokes, which are the best smokes in the game. You do have the radar, and by the way, this is having a short cooldown time of 60 seconds, so you basically can radar quickly, and you can smoke up as well, and you can counter destroyers, which is something that gives you the high game impact in the game. So if you, for example, having 9.3 km concealment, okay, let me just pick the captain to make sure that it does have 9.3 km concealment. So if you do have that concealment, then you do have the short burst smokes, you do have these, you know, the repair party, which is pretty nice, and then on top of that you have the speed boost. So if you, for example, want to run out of the situation, Sevilla does pretty well. The speed boost gives it probably around 45-46 knots, and the best part about this is that if you use the outnumbered, which is actually very valuable considering that you do have like less range, and if there are a couple of ships out there within your range, you're going to kick this outnumbered quite a lot much more frequently compared to any other ship, okay, because just having less range gives increased chance of triggering this, which again improves the dispersion. By the way, it does have destroyer dispersion, even though, I mean, it have light cruiser sort of guns, but destroyer dispersion means that it will relatively do fine, right? So Sevilla is a very good package. I'm not gonna say that the Stalin guns are, you know, something that is not like good or weak. It's just that once you have the Petro, the Sevilla makes a bit more sense, okay? Especially if you do have the Jersey Swirsky, it can be pretty helpful with the improved adrenaline rush, can be very helpful since you do have the smokes. And if you are low HP, that reload time will be a lot much more better. Your DPM definitely is decent. As you can see, 233,000 HE DPM is, I'm not gonna say it's amazing as like you find on Des Moines or something like that, but still is relatively good. You just compare it like a destroyer levels of DPM, because it's almost like a destroyer, very small hull, and then you do have so many gimmicks on top of that, like really good armor overall, except the fact that when there are destroyed like the G. Hoffman or the Elving or the hull that can just citadel you like pretty easy at long ranges, that's where you have to be careful. Otherwise, you will be doing wonders in Sevilla. You just farm damage, smoke up against battleships, smoke up against cruisers, and you just basically set fires. You ban 30mm plating. You do have 12% fire chance. Your alpha is decent. So you basically counters pretty much everything in the game. Battleships, under many situations, if they shoot the guns, you instantly smoke up. Your smoke's not gonna last for long, and you can just utilize that time when the battleship shot at you. You smoke up, and you do have that blooming time of 20 seconds. So the battleship will be kept spotted for 20 seconds because he shot the guns. Even though no one is spotting for you, the battleship will stay lit, and that smoke can kick in amazingly well. And then you do have the radar against a destroyer. And sometimes if there are no destroyers and you know something is around here and there, you can always radar to get the location. And also one thing that is really nice about the Sevilla, that it still has, which is weird for a light cruiser, depth charge airstrike, which means that you basically launch the planes. It's not like those, it's plane based airstrike. It's not like those depth charges that you are dropping from the ship itself, which is sometimes very, very useful. Like most of the times, actually, those ship-based depth charges are pretty terrible, to be honest. They are basically not useful. But these are useful, 8 km range. And you can pop the radar if there's a submarine that is in the surface, on the surface, or whatever you call it. And then you have torpedoes, which are something that I really like about the Sevilla. Like the torpedoes, amazing firing angles. Oh, this is entire defense. I'm talking about the torpedoes. Very good range. You send them constantly once you smoke up, and then when you disengage, then you basically use these torpedoes as getting floods. So if you get a flood and then you just basically forced him to DCP, then you can set fires, which, by the way, it can be very good in setting fires because that dispersion and that TPM does pretty well in that regard. So you'll be constantly sending torpedoes, like 4 from each side. And the reload time, as you can already see, the base reload time is 70 seconds. So you basically can be very annoying in kiting. And the best thing about the Sevilla, that it can be very much useful in clan battles. I have, with my clanmates, have utilized Sevilla in many situations, especially in kiting areas where you need to basically block the destroyer, and you might have a combination of Gdansk and Sevilla combo. So in terms of competitiveness, it can really do well in kiting positions, and in randoms and as well as in ranked it can do well, except the only thing that Sevilla might not be doing well in against Stalingrad compared to Stalingrad is that obviously Stalingrad can directly tank a lot of damage. It does have a lot of HP, Sevilla does not have, but still 40,000 HP is not bad for a cruiser. Okay, yes, it does not have I would say the heals like you find on light cruiser Minotaur, but then you do have so many other tools that are pretty much worthy, making Sevilla to pick as your first steel ship. That's my opinion. I know there are Plymouth. There's a Plymouth that also have the radar smoke combo, but its firing angles are super bad. It only has access to AP. You cannot set fires. The firing angles are absolute trash. There are so many other cruisers, yes, for steel ships, but compared to the Sevilla and Stalingrad, I don't see any other cruiser to literally pick. Seriously, just pick Sevilla. Probably one of the best light cruisers that you can get in the game. I'm telling you, it's really good. It can be boring sometimes because it just smokes up and farms. But as a cruiser, what do you need more, right? When you have so many overmatchable battleship guns, like Colombo can do so much damage, the Vermont, everything does well, then you are basically good in smoke, right? You will be concealed and not going to get spotted. That's what you can do in Sevilla, and then you can also use the islands as cover. So you do have like so many opportunities to tank under some situations and counter so many classes, like almost all classes. The anti-defense is also not bad. I'm not gonna say it's the best, but once the planes are within 3.5 kilometer range, they can take a lot of damage or beating from the Sevilla anti-air. So these are the things that are making Sevilla worth it for absolutely sure. I believe this should be your first steel ship. It's difficult. You need some experience playing, I would say, light cruisers. But then there are only two things, Stalingrad and Sevilla. These are the ships that you should pick. Stalingrad, again, just like I said, if you have Petro, it's kind of sort of meaningless. Sometimes you need the guns, like really punchy guns. Sometimes it works well compared to Petro at long ranges, citadeling consistently at long ranges, but Petro does that pretty similarly as well. Meanwhile, if you ask me why you are not even trying to recommend us the Commissar or the recently released, the French heavy cruiser, the L'Artique, that are basically hybrids, both are hybrids. The reason is that I'm not recommending it is that if you have not played carriers at all, then how do you understand the fullest gimmicks of these planes? How you can utilize these planes? Something that you have to really understand, okay? They are trading out something for these planes, and that's why if you have played carriers, maybe I consider buying them. But even then, I'm not gonna say that they are best over Stalingrad and Sevilla. Both are better surface ships over these hybrids. Even the L'Artique seems to have really good guns. I don't have L'Artique, so I can't show you the Amiral L'Artique. It's the recently released ship. Even then, I'm not gonna be really recommending you those. The first steel ship should and must be either Stalin or the Sevilla, in my personal opinion. Again, something that people can disagree with, and I would love your comments down below that what do you think about these two picks. Okay, so now when it comes to battleships, I believe, and I think that's my personal opinion, I think the first battleship that you should really think of picking is gonna be either this Mecklenburg. I would say is a very, very solid pick for many reasons. I will explain that. At least either this German, I would say, battleship, or the other battleship that Wargaming has recently released. It's relatively new, and that is William de Arist. Let's go and take a look at the armory, and let's compare with all the other battleships why I will prefer these two over the others. So as you can see, we are in the armory in the steel section, and we do have a lot of battleships. We do have the Shikishima, which we can compare. We do have the incomparable, again, that we can compare. And then we have the newest battleship that I was talking and recommending for you guys to pick, and that is William de Arist. Well, again, this is my personal opinion. Something that people might not like because it's not tanky battleship at all, but then we will talk about why I still prefer William de Ariste or Mecklenburg for many reasons. I will talk that. And then we do have the Laurier, we do have the Mecklenburg, which again I have recommended, and then we have, last but not the least, the Bourgogne and that's basically it. Now, why William de Riste? The William de Riste is insanely good. Like, honestly, for some reason, Wargaming, when they have released it, it has bonkers penetration for 419mm guns, or whatever the caliber it is exactly. William de Riste does have speed boost, which kind of questions. Burgon also have the speed boost, right? So, and you also have really good base reload time, by the way. If I go and show you that in the port, so that we can have some extensive comparison, and why I would recommend William de Riste. By the way, this black hole thing is because I have the mod installed, and it basically shows everything behind black, so don't worry about that. It's not a bug or something. But William de Riste having pretty much as good HP as I would say compared to Burgon. It does have access to speed boost, it does have access to better guns, it does have access to better sigma parameter, better fire chance, and better alpha on HE, and better alpha on AP. For 419mm guns, it does have 13.7k alpha, and then the penetration and the shell velocity is also really good. Now the shell velocity, maybe the Burgon might have slightly bit of an edge, but the penetration, man, oh boy, the penetration of this William de Riste is amazing. The guns are so good, and I mean the AP DPM, you might be thinking it's low. It's not low, I just don't have the reload mod, because I don't have the steel ship, but I will get as fast as I possibly can farm that 32k steel and just directly gonna buy the Riste. Even I don't have enough steel, unfortunately, but eventually once I have it, I will directly go and buy the ship. The range is decent. Anti-defense is, I'm not gonna say all the battleships right now in the steel category have similar levels of anti-defense. Some of them are having worse, like for example the Incomparable, but the guns are really good. They beat, in my opinion, they beat the Burgon. They also somehow beats the Mecklenburg, because Mecklenburg has the edge of volume of shells. You throw so many shells but very accurate, and those are, I would say, heavy cruiser level guns. So it's not sort of a good comparison with William de Riste in terms of gun performance, of at least what I would say compared to Shikishima. I'm not gonna say Shikishima has bad guns at all. In fact, those are actually a bit better guns, or I would say, yeah, those perform well, the Shikishima. But the problem with the Shikishima is, if we compare with like William de Riste, the problem is we have the Satsuma that exists, and you can just simply buy it for super ship. And that really makes it good with the F key. So Satsuma kinda gets pale in comparison, and the steel value gets worsened. Okay, you want to get something unique and powerful enough at the same time, and that's why William de Riste does really well. HP pool is better than Burgon, at least if I really compare the parameters to Burgon, because it really has to be compared, because you're either going to think of getting Burgon, Incomparable, Shikishima, or either this or Mecklenburg, right? Or the Lauria, which again I will talk about Lauria at the later part. The William de Riste does well, I would say slightly better, and then you do have the range. You do also have the overmatch compared to the Burgon and Mecklenburg. Okay, the overmatch such that you can actually at least overmatch 27mm bow. So under many situations, if you are pushing in limited situations, the William de Riste is not designed to push, but if you push, then you can at least overmatch the bows of cruisers, so they just cannot tank directly your AP and bouncing everything, except you shoot at the superstructure. That's the only last resort if you do have really bad caliber on guns. But at least William de Riste does not suffer, and with this 2.1 Sigma, it will be doing fine. Really good, by the way. And yes, it does not have access to reload booster, but it does have speed boost, and it does well. Tankiness is relatively, I'm not gonna say as good as Burgon, because Burgon has like armor that usually does not get citadeled. William de Riste has poor armor in that regard, so it can be citadel. Like you can see the armor profile, it's definitely very vulnerable. If that is something that you want in William de Riste, I think then it's gonna suffer. The armor is not the best at all. It's having 32mm all over the place, but then the Burgon also have it. Burgon also have this 32mm plating, yes? So I would say this is literally like a Dutch Burgon, or I would say a Dutch version of Burgon having also the airstrikes, because the airstrikes basically changed the game. you basically stay concealed. And by the way, something that I have to note, you guys, that it can have like 12.1 kilometer concealment. Exactly don't know remember the numbers, but it has like really good concealment. 12.1 is very good. It comes into the realm of Thunderer and Conquerors. Those are very sneaky battleships. It's also one of the sneaky battleships, so you can utilize that sneakiness that you find on Conqueror, Bungo, etc., and you're having this concealment on William de Reste. It's except that obviously the incomparable, which is the British Steel 6 guns battleship, does have the edge over all the battleship, but that is unique thing about that ship, which we will talk about that in the later part. I still believe that William de Reste, with this insanely good pen on AP, with insanely, I'm not going to say insanely, but most of the time it's having very good accuracy on the guns, really makes it more relevant compared to the meta. And this airstrikes are absolutely toxic, man. Penetration is insane. 46mm penetration mean those American battleships, British and French battleships, they just suffer. Like, bro, you just can drop 20k in a single drop with triple fires. And then the DCP, and then you shoot HE. Imagine the frustration that they have once they are facing this sort of behemoth. So yeah, that's why William de Reste is highly recommended. I believe that it is really powerful in the firepower department. Slightly more I have to give edge compared to Bourgogne. Even the Bourgogne still is bad. Still is good, but they have recently changed something. The reload time on the Alsace. It's an Alsace class battleship. The Bourgogne is an Alsace class battleship. I'm not gonna say it's bad at all. It's really good still. But it's not good actually compared to when we compared William de Reste. That's my personal opinion. And then they have recently buffed the Wujing, or I would say the copy of Alsace. This is the copy of Alsace. It does have the same armor profile as you find on Bourgogne. Okay, so maybe I can just pick the Alsace quickly and it does the same thing. So the Wujing and Alsace just got a buff. Kind of weird. 30 seconds of reload time base now, and Bourgogne has 28 seconds. They have 30 seconds with 1.6 sigma, so slightly worse accuracy compared to Bourgogne's 1.8, and it's at tier 9. So they buffed this hoof line, and meanwhile Bourgogne is definitely power crept. It retains the same armor protection that you find on Bourgogne at tier 9, does have 12 guns, better reload time now, AP/DPM is now really good, slightly better in Bourgogne I would say, but still, yes, worse accuracy. But then with these sort of reload buffs that they have done to Alsace and Wujing, the Bourgogne is, don't get me wrong, it's still good, but it's still, I'm not gonna say it's worth it to buy over William de Reste. I think William de Reste punches very hard hitting guns in my opinion, and that's why I would say it's worth it. Now, why Mecklenburg if I would like to recommend another battleship, alright? Now, the reason of picking Mecklenburg is two things. Now, if you find a battleship like William de Reste, not tanky at all, Bourgogne, not tanky at all, Incomparable also not tanky at all. It's one of the battleships at the steel that I believe is relatively tanky compared to all the steel ships. Mecklenburg does have good armor. Yes, it does have superstructure, it can be farmed, everything, but still, compared to Bourgogne, William de Reste, Incomparable, it still tanks a lot. It does not get Citadel because again, the German turtleback, it protects its armor. So it's gonna be pretty much usually immune to get Citadel. So that is like super advantage. And moreover, that's one thing, the tankiness. If you want tankiness, I believe that Mecklenburg will do better. And also one thing that it do better is the gun department. You have, again, heavy cruiser guns. These are not battleship caliber guns. You find 305mm guns, so you don't expect insane pen. But what you do expect is the accuracy. They have somehow managed to give on 16 guns platform, which again something is very new, interesting and unique, that they have battle cruiser dispersion, 2.05 sigma on top of that. These guns are very accurate. If you use the reload mod, which by the way you can always swap for secondary battery mod 1, because I have built Gunther Luthens, which by the way is an amazing captain, and if you especially have Gunther Luthens, Mecklenburg becomes even more valuable. I will talk that why. So aiming system mod 1 with battle cruiser dispersion with 2.05 sigma on these 16 guns, you basically clap cruisers. Yes, you can clap cruisers on the William D. Riste. You can also clap battleships with that insane pen, but then you can get raw penetration damage with really good reload time of 23 seconds with the reload mod. Something that if you play Mecklenburg, or if you find out the gameplay of Mecklenburg, you will eventually see that it will do really well. The damage farming that the William D. Riste can do with the planes, and I would say with the guns, can be also done with the help of the Mecklenburg guns. Yes, in a different way, because you have to now rely on HE more. Yes, the William D. Riste at least can shoot AP onto the bow cruisers wherever possible, but in the case of Mecklenburg, you have to rely on HE most of the time, even against cruisers at tier 10. So something that you should really know. But then you do have 27% fire chance. If you don't see the fire chance, it's basically because I have used IFHE, which again, totally up to you if you want to use it, because I'm using this battleship, or I would say this captain skill for all the other battleships, like the Pommern, all those battleships that need the IFHE. That's why I'm using it. But if you don't use it, that's good. You use the grease the gears, and that's like really good actually, because then your third traverse will be really improved. Okay, so again, this is my build, but one thing that just makes it so impressive, the Mecklenburg, is that you somehow managed to proc this talent, which you really cannot able to do it in any other battleship, because they have really long reload time. For throwing 16 shells every 23 seconds, this getting proc has a very high chance, and then you're just going to get a flat buff of minus 7.5%. Now this can be so valuable in the randoms as well as in ranked. In 10 minutes, I usually able to get the main battery load, or I would say boost, or whatever you call it. This perk gets released for Mecklenburg, and it does so well. You just get the reload time under 20 seconds with the help of the adrenaline rush. And then you do have some other perks. Maybe sometime it does happen, like the resilient. If you spot 3 times a ship, you get an extra sort of very small heal. Again, something that just gets extra value. And then, by the way, don't forget the fact that you still have secondaries intact, even though at least with my build, with my range and all that build, you still can manage to have 11 kilometer secondaries. Or if you want to make improvement on the secondary level, you can sacrifice the aiming system mod 1 and can use secondary battery mod 1, and then this will have 12.5 kilometer range. And then, by the way, this having really good penetration on the secondaries, 32mm pen base. Yes, I'm using IFHE, but you don't need to use it, and that will pen all the cruisers that have 30mm plating, and all the battleships that have 32mm bow plating, or battleship armor profile of 32mm as a whole. So you have the power of these insanely amazing guns. These are really good guns, guys. Yes, one thing that you should note, that it does have bad firing angles. Like, seriously, I don't know why. Compared to Burgoyne, William D. Riste, Incomparable, Shikishima, all of those battleships, Illyria, it's just that it's not having really good firing angles. I just simply, only reason that I don't like the Mecklenburg is this thing. Otherwise, amazing battleship, tanky battleship compared to many other battleships. Like even the Loria does have a citadel. And by the way, I have to come to this also very important point, that why not Loria over Mecklenburg or William de Riste? Now the answer is pretty simple. Just like the Shikishima suffering with the introduction of Satsuma, its value gets significantly lowered. You pick the Satsuma, you get the guns that you find on Shikishima on a super ship, so it started to have less value for steel. And whereas the Loria also have the same problem, because you do have the Colombo with the legendary mod. It exists, and it just kinda really does not give a lot of value over the Colombo. You have to spend 31,000 steel again, right? And you are buying a Loria that just gives you the overmatch, but even then, Colombo exists, and Colombo does pretty much the same thing, and sometimes better, and I would say most of the time better over the Loria. And by the way, you don't have the smokes that you find on the Colombo, so it's like a huge advantage under many situations that Colombo gets, and Loria doesn't. Yes, it does have the speed. It does have the concealment. It does have the battle cruiser dispersion with 1.8 sigma. Everything is good with SAP. You do have SAP, like hard hitting SAP. But then you do have 8 guns, and Colombo has 16 guns, and with the leg mod, makes Loria very less valuable for steel. Yes, if it is for coal, I would have just instantly recommended. Even if it's for research points, I would say, yeah, love it. I will buy the research point Loria. But yeah, for steel, hard. Hard, considering we do have so many other steel ships. And yeah, the same thing with the incomparable. So here it is, the incomparable. Now, why I don't like incomparable and why it's something that is very powerful, there is no doubt, but for a first steel ship, I don't think so. This should be the first buy. The first reason, the biggest reason that I don't like incomparable is gonna be the range. It has 17.6 kilometer base firing range. Yes, you do have the spotter plane, but then yeah, it can only increase the range to 20 something like kilometer if you are using the spotter plane for only couple of minutes, right? So it can be really difficult sometimes to manage your range. And then on top of that, yes, you have the best concealment out of all the other battleships at tier 10, which is impressive. 13.5 kilometer base, 13.1 kilometer base, sorry, is really impressive. But what is something that I don't find really good in incomparable, that it can be spotted by many times in a carrier game, and we usually find a lot of carrier games not only in the randoms but also in the ranks. So it compromises that amazing concealment of 10.6 or 10.7 kilometer. Okay, and then you are a long ship. You do have like abysmal turning circle, like crazy bad, and then rudder shift time also does not help. And also it has really terrible armor. I think the same thing sort of as I would say with the William de Reste, that it does have a weak vulnerable armor, but it's also not thick enough. The thickness of the incomparable is really bad. You can kind of compare it with lower tier battleships in terms of the armor plating thickness at tier 10. So it takes huge damage. Broadsiding, very difficult to manage, and turning out is very difficult to manage. You have to utilize your concealment, which sometimes you can't. Yes, you do have the hydro, which is pretty insane at tier 10. You do have the amazing concealment, you have the gimmicks, you do have the overmatch, you do have really good dispersion on the guns, pretty good sigma value, battle cruiser dispersion, everything is there, but you have to manage the range. Range is not manageable. The HP pool is also low. So these all things, and you by the way have the speed boost, but still it's it's having 6 guns. I just don't like, for some reason the inconsistency still retains. And then if you want to switch to HE, the HE is basically not like that you find on Thunder, even though you do have like the highest caliber guns for British tier 10. You have the highest caliber guns for British tier 10, and yet they just don't have the HE alpha more than Thunder, or I would say having the nerfed version of that 7.4k. It's basically, you can compare it with the Conqueror's 419 millimeter guns, right, with barely 55% chance and only 6 shells. So yeah, you are basically abysmal with HE DPM. So yes, you do have the overmatch again, I would say, but still sometimes it can be really difficult to manage if the battleships are angling and if they have like good deck armors. Okay, side armors, if they have good side and deck armors, then it can be difficult at medium to long ranges to use that overmatch on them. So that's the reason why incomparable, I don't like it. I believe that's my opinion. The Mecklenburg, in terms of tankiness and the guns performance, and the William de Reste will suit out more as your first steel ship. Again, something that you can always let me know in the comments. What do you think? Okay, I can debate for a massively long time that there are some other ships that you should really think of, but these are the two that I just believe that they will be the top meta picks. That's what I believe. Alright, so when it comes to destroyers, we do have very limited options. We do have the Barbiano, it's the newest out of all destroyer. Then we do have the Z42 and the Ragnar, and that's basically it. So we have 3 destroyers currently for steel ships. What is the first steel ship, in my opinion, that you should really think of buying? I think the most versatile and the highest game impact destroyer that I definitely think is going to be the Z42. It should be your first steel pick. The reason why I'm not even considering Barbiano, even though Barbiano, there is no doubt that it is uniquely, I would say, special, or I would say interesting, but it does come up with weaknesses, and it's something that it's not easy for newer players to manage. I can tell you, yes, you do have the smokes and everything. It can be difficult to play. Yes, you can utilize this like absurd concealment, or sorry, not the absurd concealment, the absurd sap DPM, a lot of sap shell that you can hit with the tons of guns that it has on a destroyer. There's no doubt, but even then, I compare, or I would say I would rate Z42 higher, and even over the Ragnar. Let's talk about this quickly. Alright, so why Z42? Now, honestly, very versatile destroyer. It's amazing for doing several things. The guns, the HE shells, I'm not gonna say are impressive at all. Really not good HE at all. But what really makes Z42 shine, and especially against destroyers, when they are coming and farming you or trying to attack you, is the AP. Try this 10 AP shell broadside on enemy destroyers. Try that with really good alpha, 2.4k alpha, onto the enemy destroyer, and you will eventually see all of them will pen. The broadside of the destroyers will be penned by these AP. This is only 105mm guns. They actually penetrate the broadside of destroyers, and with this reload time of 3.8 seconds, and with the hydro and smoke combo, and smokes are the most blessed consumable that they have given to the Z42. It's super versatile, guys. You smoke up, any issue happens, you just smoke up, unless you are in radar, which means that you are in deep trouble, and that's basically for all destroyers. But if you just get into any trouble, this get out of jail free card, short burst smoke generator, is just so good. And then on top of that, they have given a 6km hydro, and yes, it does have 6.2km concealment, which is not the best, I can agree with that. But what is really best is the moment you get spotted, if the Shima gets you spotted, you pop the hydro. If the Shima has 5.6km concealment, it's not, because now you have 6km concealment regardless of your really good detection, because the hydro will spot you regardless. Once you are in 6km of the detection of Z42, it's just so good. It basically like badly lessens the value, reduces the value of all the sneaky destroyers like Jaeger, Nustrushimi, Shimakaze, maybe a couple of ships that have 5.7km concealment. All of them, they just get straight to 6km because of the hydro. And if they push towards into you further, unlike Barbiano, which if someone pushes into you, yes, you can kill him, but he can smoke back. He can disengage, everything that he can do in Barbiano to avoid your insane DPM, which by the way kills you very quickly. Without a doubt, Barbiano does that. But Z42 just does that. It smokes up, it pops the hydro. If something is bowing in, shoot HE. Constantly shoots HE. It does not do much damage. But then once you shoot AP, once it broadsides and trying to turn out because they have done a mistake, oh boy, what the hell have I done? What have I done? So sometimes it's very difficult for a destroyer to manage this. So when they just get into this smoke hydro combo. Okay, again, the Z42 does that, but then the AP will overpens sometimes, because you don't have that penetration that you can do onto the broadside destroyers. You can do that in Z42, and you will do like 4, 5, 6, 7k volleys, and then you can also you just cripple them, and then they cannot do much unless you're maybe fighting against Smolensk, right? Smolensk is something that can counter you with the radar. Most of the time there are no radars on destroyers, most of the time. So that's where the Z42 will just going to have upper advantage no matter what. And then you do have the speed boost. You do have the somewhat decent HP. I'm not going to say the best, but it's not the worst either. It's just okay. Slightly above average, I would say. And then you do have the torpedoes, which are, not the best of torps. It's something that I don't like about the Z42. But then you do have torpedoes over Ragnar and also over Barbiano. Funny enough, for some reason, Z42 is so much better because it just have torpedo armament over the Barbiano. Barbiano does not have torps. Ragnar does not have torps. Yes, the Ragnar, if we really compare Ragnar with Z42, yes, you do have the radar, 7.5km. And that can be pretty annoying for Z42 to deal with. But once he pops the radar, you just disengage. And once you engage back him again, right, then you do have the smoke and hydro combo on him. Because the radar will be on cooldown. It's not like Gdansk radar where you just constantly pop the radar once again. Yes, you do have long range radar. long duration and obviously relatively decent range radar. But then the cooldown time is where the Z42 will come back and haunt him and shine. Something that Ragnar can't. So you can always smoke up as well, unlike Ragnar. So if you shoot the guns and if you smoke up and someone spots that Ragnar, he can't disengage. You can free farm him. And that is something that you can do with all of the destroyers. If they come back and engage you the second time after you utilize the smoke. And you can also pop the hydro if you do have, which makes life even worse. So something that is so good of the Z42, I just really love that smoke hydro combo. Amazing. And then all the other stuff, good damage farming with the guns, and Gunther Lutens with improve the reload time of the guns. If you are getting, I would say 140 shell hits, which is relatively easy in this ship. So better DPM over time with this with the adrenaline rush. So that's the reason why the Barbiano is very much like reliant on something most of the time. Whereas Z42 is like, you can basically bait anyone, shoot you, and then you can just pop the smoke. That you can also do in Barbiano, but not for long. You can disengage. You do have 50 seconds the smoke on the Barbiano. So the battleship shells, if they shoot at you, they bloom for only 20 seconds. Whereas the Z42 does have like decent dispersion time. Not that high, not that low. 40 seconds. I think you just basically farm battleship for 20 seconds. If we talk about self-reliance, where Barbiano definitely struggles a lot. You have someone to spot for Barbiano to do much more than compared to Z42. Because then you do have torpedoes in this. Barbiano just have the guns. And it's a big, clumsy, long ship as well. In which case Z42 also does have really good sort of relatively good nimbleness compared to the Ragnar, and I would say the other ship, the Barbiano. So and just like that, I don't know, Ragnar seems to be looking a bit pale. Maybe if you're thinking why not Ragnar? Ragnar's not bad, right? Ragnar is not bad. It's just super boring, and super relying on this very amazing accuracy, no doubt, and just okay DPM. I'm not gonna say it's really bad, but it's just okay. It's 176 kg DPM. Yes, you can shoot on broadsides, do good damage with AP. But honestly, if you want to pick a better destroyer, seriously, I would consider Sevilla. It's a better destroyer than Ragnar. It's a better steel ship than the Ragnar itself. Like, honestly, Sevilla and Ragnar are literally feels quite similar, except that Ragnar does not have the Citadel, whereas Sevilla does have it. But Sevilla, overall, with better gun performance and with all the consumables that it has, just does overall better than Ragnar. That's what I do believe. If the Ragnar would have like these radars, like the Sevilla, that would be pretty interesting. But the Ragnar has like worse cooldown time on the heals. You can see here, 120 seconds. It's double than Sevilla. Yes, you do have longer duration, but you know, something that I like about the Sevilla, that you can just pop the radar constantly with 9 km detection, which I really like it, by the way. So yeah, I don't like Ragnar right now. Honestly, I would be pretty much clear about this, that Ragnar can work around well, can do well. It's not like bad at all. You do have the radar thing, yes, but Z42 also does kind of similar things with the Hydra smoke. So I would say you pick the Z42. I believe with all the armaments, with all the good concealment numbers, the speed and everything that it has, I think the Z42 is more versatile than Barbiano and the Ragnar. So it's my first steel ship. Yes, I can argue and have more comparisons with 3 of these destroyers, but I just can give you my best opinion. That is that this ship should be your first steel ship pick, regardless. And for the carriers and submarines, I think the answer is very, very straightforward. It's pretty simple, to be honest. Compared to the battleships, cruisers, and destroyer, the answer for the carriers and the submarines is very, very simple. Just pick Shinano over FDR. FDR is powerful, no doubt. Tankiest planes and everything that it's going for it, but it's not easy to play. It's certainly very difficult ship to utilize, the FDR. Whereas Shinano is relatively easy. The torpedo bombers can be managed by you popping the heel, which again is a lifesaver in many situations. And then you do also have the heals on the skip AP bombers. And then the HE bombers that you have as a squadron, tactical squadron, contains the smoke. Now honestly, if I just simply say one thing, giving a smoke to the carrier, kind of, and I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of giving a tier amount of edge. It's like the edge of a full tier if you give a smoke to a carrier versus not having a smoke on the carrier. That's how powerful the smoke consumable on a carrier really is. That alone, the smoke alone, the armor profile alone, everything that it has, like it's having the best armor profile in this entire game. Like really impressive. 30mm side armor, or resistant to be overmatched compared to any other carriers. 75mm deck, everything that we're talking here with the smoke, it just makes it a good pick. And on top of that, these armaments that you have, the torpedo bombers, yes, they have nerfed it. They have nerfed the torpedoes, they have nerfed the escape. Even on top of that, I still recommend Shinano. I think it's the most powerful. It's anti-CV sort of carrier. It just destroys carriers. Go and watch the videos. Go and watch how this destroy carriers by sniping them. How powerful this skip bomber AP really is still after the nerf. I just cannot fathom that why it's still released in the first place. Even after the nerf, it's still very powerful. There's no other doubt about that. I just simply would say, if you just close your eyes and if you want to pick a carrier, pick Shinano. It has also have like secondaries which are like really good. If you find a destroyer, it's trying to harm you, harass you, you smoke up and then you utilize your secondaries. And boy oh boy, just do really well against them. If you build it for secondaries, and even if you didn't, you do have the manual secondary range, which you can utilize with really good dispersion on the secondary. So it's very good in many situations that FDR struggles. Especially when we are talking about the struggle of FDR, it's really not good against destroyers. It's really good, sort of still broken against battleships, but that's it. Shinano is just good, not only against destroyers, like brutally good against destroyers, but it's also good against cruisers and battleships. And that's why you close your eyes and you just simply pick Shinano. It's worth it, still after the nerfs. And meanwhile, if we last but not least talk about the submarines, Archerfish reigns supreme over the Gato. We do have only two submarines. Archerfish, American, Gato, American. So why Archerfish? Because it have the ping sonar, and then you do have the F key. I mean, you just go. Honestly, what I can say here, I'm kind of tired of talking so long. I would say that you just go and check out the videos, and having the only submarine to have the speed boost, the only submarine to have 46 knots of speed onto the surface and periscope depth, and on top of that you do have the reserve battery unit that Gato does not have. The speed and also the, I would say, what I was saying, the reserve battery unit alone makes it very survivable in many situations if you are running out of battery. And also the speed just does wonders. And then you do have the heals, something that just Gato would like to have, but it does not. And it heals a lot, 15,000 HP that you can heal in total with 3 heals on Archerfish, which is kind of crazy. Yes, I would say in every department, in terms of torpedo performance, yes, the Gato does have like hard hitting torpedoes, but they don't home. You have to play it like a destroyer. The Gato is kind of like the destroyer on a submarine, because you do have these alternate torpedoes, hard hitting tops, but then they just straight move like torpedoes of destroyers. Those work like destroyers, these torpedoes. But here's the thing that Archerfish really has the edge. You do have the alternate tops, which does still hit hard, and then you do have the torpedoes that are homing with 10.5 kilometer range, something that just Gato does not have. Only 6 kilometer range. So yeah, the pinging power, which is the very toxic power of the submarine, if you ping and just have the one ping or double ping, and don't forget the fact that it does have like big ping width, which makes double pinging super easy compared to the Gato. These things alone, with the torpedoes spam that you can do with the help of F key, by the way just triggers automatically, and it just gives you consumable preparation and reload time minus 20%, and torpedo tube reload time minus 17.5% indefinitely, as long as you just trigger the F key, which is super easy. If you hit the torpedoes, you get the buff of torps reload time. You just hit the torpedoes Only 2 of them, and then your F key gets activated. If you even tank a bit of damage, if the depth, if someone shoots you, you just quickly get this F key, and it just works in your favor so well. And these torpedoes will just so fastly loaded, 6 of them and 4 of them, that honestly, Archerfish is better submarine, more versatile submarine, in many situations more powerful than Gato. Oh, just like I said, reserve battery unit, the fastest submarine in the game, and also I cannot forget the fact that you have like so many DCPs. 6 DCPs on a submarine is kind of crazy. And the Gato has only limited to I think 4. Yeah, so 4. So like huge advantage of the Archerfish here. The only thing that it does have as a disadvantage, and I have to say it in front of you guys, that it does not have access to hydrophone, which is something that you need as a vision. You cannot have vision, you just don't know what is on the surface. If you are in maximum depth, you have no idea what is coming towards you, where that destroyer really is. So something that you basically lose is the vision, but you get healed because of that. So Archerfish, in my opinion, personal opinion, I think it's superior to Gato, and you should pick the steel ship if you want to pick submarine first over the Gato. And I think that's pretty long video. Should give you a good understanding of your first steel ship. According to the meta, according to my opinion, according to what I think, these are the ships for each class that you should really pick. And again, if you have any comments, let me know in the comment section. I would love to answer you. I can have a debate, and I can just convince you if you need any information, okay? Last but not the least, I would like to give a big shout out to my Patreon members for definitely helping me directly through paid memberships, something that I really like, and I have to say thank you to these guys who are constantly helping me and supporting this channel. I can't thank these guys enough, and if you are also looking to do that for me, I would be very, very happy. So thank you guys. Hopefully this answers very important question of the steel ship that you should pick first. So I would say take care guys, and any question is welcome in the comment section. Peace out.